What is up, everyone? Please take a second and hit that like button. The more likes that we get in a short period of time, the more people the algorithm will bring into the chat to come and hang out with us and see what's going on. So please hit that like button. Let me know how you're doing, and happy freedom. All right, let me check on everyone, make sure everybody's doing good, and then we will get it started. Big shout out to everyone that was in voice chat last night on Gilded. That was pretty awesome. Who hit me up. He's like, we should really get in the voice chat right after the State of the Union address. I was like, all right, but I got 30 minutes. 2 hours and 30 minutes later, it's like 2 o'clock. I'm like, I gotta go. Sorry, guys. It was really awesome, though. What's up, Matthew? What's up, USA Forever? What's up, M Rank? What's up, Shanti? What's up, Dammit Janet? What's up, Sawdog? What's up, T Lawton? What's up, Toy Mafia? What's up, Brenda? What's up, Tacoma Nurse? What's up, GQ? What's up, Mike? What's up, Snugs? Happy freedom. What is up, all you hooligans? All right. What's up, everyone on the JeffMAC live YouTube channel? What's up, Shadow? What's up, High Plains Drifter? What's up, Willie Fix It? Power out in DC, shut off Twitter hearings. Yeah, I heard that there's the Twitter thing. Either it was going on earlier. I don't know if it's still going on. Obviously, if the power's out, probably not still going on. I haven't watched it yet, though. I was busy setting this stuff up before I knew that was going on. What's up, Mr. Beansy Beans? What's up, Big Turd? What's up, Two Ruby Shoes? What's up, everyone on Twitch? What's up, Nurse Nose? What's up, everyone on Odyssey? What's up, Serum? What's up, Joe? What's up, Pumpkin? What's up, Sleuthy TV? What's up, everyone on Rumble? Appreciate you guys watching. What's up, Karen? What's up, Anna? What's up, everyone on Facebook? It's supposed to be resuming at 2 on C-SPAN. I will take a gander. We have some stuff happening at 2, but we'll see how it goes. Happy Freedom, Anthony. Thanks for being here. I don't know why the login screen takes so long over on the JeffMAC Live website. That's the only thing I don't like over there. What's up, everyone watching on jeffmaclive.com. All right, hooligans, let's get it started. So later today, we got Old Man Walter giving remarks on the economy. That's happening at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then at 2:10, we got Hyena Harris participating in a moderated conversation on the weather. We'll say that. Before all of that begins, we're going to be covering a video titled Old Man Walter Challenges GOP in State of the Union. Most of these are just observations of the State of the Union, stuff that we may have missed while we were cracking jokes and making fun of Old Man Walter last night. Had an awesome live last night. If you guys missed it, you really missed it. It was pretty awesome. But then we have a short video titled Lauren Boebert, this is the best thing I can say about Old Man Walter's 2023 SOTU address. Then we have a very short video titled It's Your Fault, Republicans jeer Biden over fentanyl deaths. Then we have another short video that is titled Bizarre, Jill Biden and Camilla's husband kiss at the State of the Union address, which I missed that last night. I didn't realize until after I got off the live and seen the 30,000 posts on Twitter of it. So that was something I'll be showing you guys. Then we got another short video that is titled Camilla is a Dreadful Candidate by Karl Rove. Then we're going to cover a video that is titled Was This a Big Psyop? Matt Gaetz scrutinizes purpose of the Chinese spy balloon. And then we will be wrapping up our videos with Lauren Boebert responds to AOC's amendments and rips weather extremists. All this word lingo just to keep us floating over here. So that's what we will be covering. Then, like I said, at 2 o'clock we got Old Man Walter. 2:10 we got Hyena Harris. And we'll see how things go from there. So give me a second, get everything set up. Old Man Walter looks like he's thinking really hard. I just feel like it's just Looney Tunes music going on in there. Alright, hooligans, I'm going to read through the chat really quick, make sure everybody's doing alright. Drop some ones, drop some coffees in the chat if you are ready to go. Miss Jamie, on YouTube, it's all a word game. Absolutely. Whole time I was growing up, caught a lot of flack about speaking slang. And a lot of that just comes from the area I grew up in. Everybody spoke the way that I speak over there. But man, does it pay off in this kind of job. You don't have to be literal. You just have to do enough insinuation and people are picking up what you're laying down, but we don't get under the acts of the community guidelines. I love it. Love it. Matthew, Old Man Walter's gears are stuck. Something like that. Or he just creamed his drawers. One or the other. He's like, oh man, that's gonna stain this suit, isn't it? How come he doesn't just put a Chinese flag on his little collar there? I don't understand. What's up, the noise? Appreciate a fellow hooligander here. I'm on the opposite side of the state. We're keeping it, you know, we're holding it down over here. Michigan is safe. We got hooligans all around. William Sleepwalker. He's a skinwalker. That's what he is. All right, hooligans. I'm seeing the ones. I'm seeing the coffees. Let's get her started.
Fighting for the sake of fighting. Power for the sake of power. Conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere.
U.S. President Joe Biden challenged Republicans to, quote, finish the job and work with him in this year's State of the Union speech on Tuesday. It was his first large-scale public face-off with a more divided Congress after last year's midterms.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying...
Look at McCarthy in the back. I didn't realize, but throughout most of his speech, he just was saying that's not true over and over again.
President and Biden firing back unscripted rebuttals, as when he mentioned his immigration reform.
Congress must restore the right
and when he said Republicans were holding the economy hostage.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
When GOP lawmakers denied they planned to cut those programs, Biden fired back.
Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion. Let's all agree, and we apparently are. Let's stand up for seniors.
Overall, Biden offered a positive view of the country in a speech that focused on the economy and which called on Republicans to help him raise the debt ceiling and make tax friendlier for the middle class.
There's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well.
I think he should just give all of his speeches from there so we can hear people boo him in real time.
$1 debt ceiling to rise in exchange for spending cuts.
Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyre Nichols. Welcome.
Among the guests in the audience were Tyre Nichols' mother and stepfather, who Biden introduced when he called on Congress to overhaul policing.
When police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable. Do something. Do something.
Biden's appeal for bipartisan unity comes while he remains unpopular in the polls. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll put his approval rating at 41%, close to the lowest level of his presidency. The Republican response to Biden's speech by Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders rejected the president's positive take on the country.
In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race.
Biden's aides see the speech, likely to have drawn his largest TV audience of the year, as a milestone ahead of his second presidential campaign, which he is expected to launch in the weeks to come.
Well, I like that MTG was calling him a liar, screaming at him, calling him out. Sometimes she's a little over the top, but as long as they're calling him out for being the old geezer that he is, I'm with that. Next, we're going to be covering a short video. It's just over a minute long. It's titled Lauren Boebert. This is the best thing I can say about Old Man Walter's 2023 State of the Union address. Give me a second. Let me get this pulled up.
The best part about tonight was Nancy Pelosi not sitting behind the podium at the State of the Union. I was seriously disappointed in Biden's speech tonight. No real solutions on the border, nor did he take responsibility for the invasion of millions of illegals entering our country. No proposal on how to end the fentanyl poisoning killing Americans. No vision for how to lower inflation. He attacked and disparaged American energy producers. He lied about Republicans wanting to cut Medicare and Social Security. We made it very clear tonight that is off the table. All Joe Biden did was try and personally take credit for America recovering from the COVID pandemic when Democrats shut down our businesses, schools, and churches. There was no hint on ending vaccine mandates for healthcare workers. Instead of lies and grandstanding, Joe Biden should come to the terms with the fact that Republicans now control the House, and he needs to start negotiating with us if he wants anything to pass. Another fail for Joe Biden tonight. The best thing I can say about the speech is it's over. Now, let's make Biden's next State of the Union his last.
Crazy sauce. Not really saying anything we didn't already know. It's crazy when I see people with those veneers. All her teeth are, fake. They're all crowns and stuff. Some people pay like $45,000 to get their teeth done like that. And then in the end, I feel like it looks like a mouth guard. Old man Walter. I'm saying that was like the best speech I've heard him give. I mean, it was exactly the same as every speech he gives. But all the booing and stuff really made it worthwhile. All right, let's see what we got next. This next very short video, it's just 23 seconds long. The title is, "It's Your Fault. Republicans Jeer Biden Over Fentanyl Deaths." Alright, before we get started, I'm going to read through the chat really quick. Channel Q, she was a beauty queen. Yeah, but she's not the only one. There's a lot of people on TV go and get those veneers and stuff like that. I mean, I kind of wish I had perfect teeth, but at the same time, it would change how I talk. You ever get like a fill-in or something, and then all of a sudden you don't talk right anymore? You're like knocking your teeth together. I don't think I would like that. What's up, Hoppers? Fishing? Appreciate you being here. AJ, milestone for a nursing home. Old man Walter, he's too much. It's too much. Miss Jamie, no different than any other of his speeches over the past 50 years. A bunch of lying word salad. Yeah, he didn't. The only thing he said that was different is he didn't bring up the extremist MAGA Republicans. And I wonder why. It's either because he was informed to not do that, because it really sounds like he's dividing the entire country, or for his own safety, because they're sitting right there in front of him, the people he's referencing when he says that. And I kind of was hoping he would say that and kind of see the retaliation for it. Just another sign that old man Walter's weak, because if he really meant those words, he would say it right to their face, because that's the way the truth is done, right here out in the open and in your face. But again, old man Walter's a liar, and he doesn't even know where he is half the time or who crapped his pants for him. So, reading along here, just a few more moments and we'll get this started. In like 8 minutes, old man Walter's supposed to be live. We'll be right on time. Mr. Beansy Beans, he blamed MAGA King for inflation. He's a coward. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I say that stuff to people on Twitter. I'll make posts, most of the time just joking around, but a lot of times I'm dropping some facts on people's heads, and then these little trolls come out and they're like, but Durka. I'm like, just say that Trump did it, okay? Just go ahead, blame the MAGA King. We already know that your brain doesn't function properly. That's fine. But since you're going to share your 2 cents, just squeal out for us real loud. I like that stuff. Happy Freedom Nefties. Appreciate you being here. What's up, Salty Ragu? Joe. Oh, Old Man Walter's live right now. Well, it's too bad. We'll catch him after this video. I don't know why they jumped it like that. Maybe because of Hyena Harris. He's 7 minutes early, and that's really unlike Old Man Walter. Alright, made my way through the chats. We're going to play this video. I'm going to see what's going on with the live feed, and we'll go from there.
Killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. Big, you got it.
So they're all yelling at Old Man Walter, just like we had explained during the State of the Union address. Can't be crying about fentanyl if you're letting it come across the border by your buddies that make it in China. Old Man Walter, he thinks that we don't know. Like when he talks about the taxes, and I was explaining that yesterday, he's always talking about how we need to tax the rich because they don't pay taxes and da-da-da-da-da. Because he's just banking on the fact that you don't understand how taxes work, because most of America is an employee and not an employer, or, you know, self-employed or anything like that. So you don't really know much about, you know, how taxes work in most cases, because you get your W-2, you go to H&R Block or whatever, you make them deal with it, and then you go on about your day, because taxes are complicated, they suck, you don't want to be audited and all that other stuff. You just want your money and to keep moving. But when you run your own business, or you're self-employed, you're an employer, or any of those kind of things, you got to handle all that stuff yourself, and then you can cash it into H&R Block or whoever you go through, or do it yourself if you're smart enough to do it, like you're an accountant or whatever. Then you realize there's write-offs and all kinds of things that really knock down what you have to pay in. It's just the way the tax system is. If everybody was self-employed, kind of like how it used to be, like 16th century stuff, where you were you served a purpose. You may have been like a blacksmith. Your daddy was a blacksmith. His daddy was a blacksmith, and this, that, and the other. You served the community with your skills. If everybody did that, everybody would be self-employed. Everybody would be entitled to tax write-offs and stuff like that. Nobody would be paying into tax the way that they do right now. But the schools don't teach you that. They don't want you to be self-sustaining. The government absolutely doesn't want you to be self-sustaining. They want you on your knees begging for help, hands out. Give me that free money, government. I'll trade you my dignity and my freedom for it, just so I can be complacent and feel like I got a little safety blanket around me. And they're banking on that stuff. And you see the way education is going now. They care more about you worrying about turning your wiener inside out, or, you know, worrying about your skin color, than teaching you how to read and do math, let alone how taxes work. I mean, most of the time they don't even teach you how to fill out a checkbook. So it's not good. Why it's important to be a good parent. You gotta, you know, you gotta pour into your children. You have to invest in them. Make sure their brain functions properly, because otherwise they're gonna grow up to be Antifa or worse. But regardless of that, we're gonna put on this live. We are a little bit late. We're like 7 minutes late. He's actually 4 minutes early. But either way, we're gonna get this started. I'll have to change the location. They're not in DC.
I was always out at Wisconsin Laborers Training Center. My name is Sarah Varga, and I'm a proud apprentice and member of the LiUNA Local 464. Growing up in Janesville, I was always outdoors, either helping my dad work around the house or at a local rink playing ice hockey. After a couple of semesters of college, playing ice hockey and track and field, I decided that college wasn't offering what I wanted to do with my life. I talked with my dad, who's a union plumber. I asked him if he likes what he does, and he said he loved it. I found a contractor who then connected me with the Wisconsin Labor's Apprenticeship Program. Sorry. I have found my home at Edgerton Contractors and within my union family at Local 464 here in Madison, Wisconsin. Working as a union laborer has taught me that I do not need a college degree to have a good paying, family supporting job with great wages, health care, and a pension.
Why are they anti-college degree? That doesn't make sense to me.
The work that I do on Wisconsin's infrastructure has helped myself and my fellow union brothers and sisters in our union way of life. And there has been no greater friend than President Biden when it comes to creating more union jobs, building our roads and bridges, replacing lead pipes, and building renewable energy and high-tech manufacturing facilities. Thank you.
You can clap for that.
President Biden is the best president in history for unions, and I am so proud and greatly honored to introduce to you the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Prostitute.
Hello there, young child.
What, is this a communist country or something? I thought this is America.
Come on, man.
You can clap for that. Prostitute.
Hello, hello, hello. If you have a seat, take one. If you don't, come on up on stage with me.
Derpa derpa.
Well, thank you very much. You know, got it over here. Hey, folks, how are you?
Hello.
Don't jump. Don't jump.
Not really that funny.
Madison, hello.
Not really, old man Walter. That's that is something else.
Buddies in labor in my entire career.
I'm gonna totally crop that. Don't jump.
The thing about Terry is whatever he says, he
Awesome.
does, even when circumstances change. I love the people who say, I'll be there with you, and then say, oh, I can't anymore. Things have changed. Whatever he tells you, he does. Whatever he tells you, he does. And we've been working together since he was 12 years old. No, I'm only joking, but, you know, every time I have a problem in Delaware, Gov, I just go across the river in New Jersey and make sure everything got squared away. You think I'm joking? This is the most reliable guy, one of the most reliable guys in labor or business, and I really appreciate it. So, look, I want to thank Sarah for the introduction. And boy, can she wield a mean hockey stick. I tell you, I was in the back. Reason we were taking a little longer is I have a granddaughter who's a hell of an athlete. She's going to graduate this year from college, but she played lacrosse and field hockey. Lacrosse and soccer, all state in both subjects.
He's forgetting his speech.
Sports, and she went off to school. And she said, "I can't work 40 hours a week in the field and still do well in school." So she decided to stay. I was hoping she'd go pro, but anyway, you know. But I was telling my introducer, she reminds me very much of my granddaughter. She even looks like her. At any rate, Madam Mayor, thanks for the passport into town. Appreciate it. Where is she? And there you are. And Governor Evers, you're a great partner, man. You've been a great partner all the way back when I was vice president, even now. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your leadership. I really, really.
Slurring hard today.
Thank you. And Representative Mark Pocan, a great congressman and a friend, always fighting for working families, and you helped us get so much done for union members in the last couple years. Look, you know, she couldn't be here today, but Tammy Baldwin just fights so damn hard for this state. If I do anything that doesn't start off with the word Wisconsin, I get a note from Tammy. But all kidding aside, she's incredible. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to, on behalf of the American people, our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Turkey and Syria. You know, the death toll is rising. It's one of the worst earthquakes in that region in over 100 years. And we mourn the loss of so many lives, and we offer our deepest condolences. You know, it's amazing watching these people try to pull out from under this rubble and these terrible buildings, but although the earthquake was incredibly powerful, significant aftershocks and a second quake. But you see dads or moms pulling little babies out from underneath this rubble. So many people dying. And our thoughts are also with the survivors who've been torn apart by this tragedy. As I told President Erdogan, and I called him immediately when the first quake hit, that the United States is offering our full support, rescue and recovery teams and our NATO ally, deploying teams for the U.S. Agency of International Development, drawing additional resources, including our armed forces in Europe to assist Turkey's teams on the ground. In Syria, the U.S. is supporting humanitarian partners who are responding with equipment and assistance and have been conducting urgent search and rescue missions from day one, even in the face of staff members' death and injuries in that first day. The United States is a leading donor across all the areas of Syria, no matter who controls the territory. It's about saving human life. We remain steadfast in our commitment to supporting the people of Turkey and Syria in this time of need. Last night I reported on the State of the Union. It is strong. It is strong.
Those Molly Ranchers are strong.
Because the soul of the nation is strong. The backbone of this nation is strong, and the people of this nation are strong. And I've said so many times, often told the Democrats and Republicans, we can actually work together. We actually work together. All the things we did were bipartisan. All the major initiatives. And besides, I signed over 300 bipartisan bills beyond the big ones. Folks, look, last night, I said if we couldn't work together last Congress, if we could work together last Congress, there's no reason we can't get things done as well this Congress. And I mean that. You know, people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting gets us nowhere. We're getting things done. It's always been my vision for this country. Today I'm here to talk about one part of that vision, the economy that works for working people. This is a blue-collar, blue change we're seeing. You know, an economy where we're building, we've built more in the last 2 years since I've taken office than you can imagine. We've created 12 million new jobs, 500,000 jobs just last month. We've created more jobs in 2 years, than any president's created in a single 4-year term. Look, unemployment rate is 3.4%, a 50-year low. Gas prices are down more than $1.50, and we're going to make sure the oil companies start playing their honest role. It's going to go down further. Inflation has fallen 6 months straight, and inflation is coming down. Take-home pay of workers is going up slightly. Manufacturing is rebounding at the fastest rate in almost 40 years. The economy is growing at a solid clip. Folks, I hate to disappoint them, but the Biden economic plan is working. It's working. But that's not news to any of you. Laborers here in Wisconsin, union workers across the country are seeing it firsthand. Because for the first time in a long time, we're building an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. The bottom up and the middle out. With products made in America, with union labor. Not labor, union labor. I mean it. My American plan, my economic plan is for the middle and working class Americans to get up every morning, go to work, and bust their necks just trying to get an honest living. You know,
Was that a George Floyd reference?
he wasn't a college guy. He regretted he never got to go to college. But my dad worked like hell. My dad used to say, I mean this sincerely, and all the kids in the family know it. He'd say, Joey,
It's not a joke.
a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about
His daddy showed him his dignity all the time.
say,
That's
honey,
why I called him honey.
be okay and mean it, and mean it.
He was trying to jinx me.
Look, I've said many times, Wall Street did not build this country. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class. That's a fact. And for real, that's the God's truth. And by the way, now you're rebuilding the country. I signed a once-in-a-generation investment in putting Americans to work rebuilding our national infrastructure. It was bipartisan. Republicans signed on to it too. Not all of them, but it was enough to get it passed.
It sounds like a
By the
singing.
way, I told them, even those that didn't vote for it, call and say, we need a project in my district. I said, okay, good, we'll do it. See you at the groundbreaking. You know, for really.
For really?
For all of America. You know, at the Port of Green Bay, we're helping.
I've never heard that before. For really?
Terminal. Going to create thousands of jobs over time. This is a big deal. You know, we're just up the road in Columbia County, just up the road. Funds from the infrastructure are going to replace the Wisconsin River Bridge. Here in Madison, the mayor can tell you we're using the funding to buy 46 electric buses, replacing dirty diesel buses that are bad health for the environment. Each of these projects means jobs for laborers, plumbers, pipe fitters, electricians, carpenters, cement masons, iron workers, and so many more. These are good jobs, jobs you can raise a family on. And most don't require a college degree, jobs where people don't have to leave home in search of an opportunity. But they do require at least 4 years of trained apprenticeships, which is one of the reasons the United States has the best trained workers in the world like you. And by the way,
You gotta sip your coffee every time he says, by the way.
Americans don't know that. We ought to tell them, keep telling them. Every time they say, why are you so pro-labor? Because you're the best workers in the world. And they say, how's that?
Camera person scrambling.
Besides, I want to be a laborer, I want to be a plumber, I want to be an electrician. It takes you 4 years, busting your neck, basically going back to school to be able to become certified. That's why you're the best. You're the best educated in what you do. I really mean it. I spoke with members of the Business Roundtable, the big business guys. And they asked, why am I so pro-labor? Because you save them money. What you do lasts. What you do lasts. And through the American Rescue Plan, we're funding workforce development programs, including $128 million here in Wisconsin.
Thank you so much to Luthi TV for that $2 donation on Rumble. I appreciate you. Thank you.
This is a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America. And we're also doing something that for years people just talked about. We're going to buy American for everything we build. Last night, I announced we're proposing new standards to require all construction materials used on federal infrastructure projects be made in America. American lumber, American glass, American drywall, American fiber optics, American roads, bridges, highways made with American products. My first 2 years in office, we've created 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Where? I mean it sincerely. Jobs you can live on. Where is it written America can't lead the world in manufacturing again? I didn't see it written anywhere. Our economic new manufacturing boom. Just outside of Madison, Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals going to hire 250 workers in a drug manufacturing facility. Georgia Pacific is committed to a major expansion of the Green Bay paper production facility, bringing in 100 new employees and hiring 500 construction workers. For decades, we've imported We've imported products from abroad and sent jobs overseas because they thought it was cheaper to have the cheaper labor. Now America's exporting product overseas and creating jobs here at home. Look, I didn't come from a poor family, but I came from a typical middle-class family. Split-level home, 4 kids, a grandpa living with us. It wasn't so private for my mom and dad, but we thought it was good. But all kidding aside, typical middle-class family. For decades, the backbone of America, the middle class, has been hollowed out. It's been hollowed out. Good-paying manufacturing jobs moved overseas, production, because it was cheaper there. When jobs move overseas, factories at home close down. You saw it in Janesville, where Sarah, a woman you just heard from, is from. When the last assembly line was shut down in the GM plant 2 days before Christmas 2008, thousands of people lost their jobs at the plant and the surrounding businesses that the plant kept alive. Look, think about how many moms and dads had to have that conversation with their kids. Honey, I just lost my job. We got to move, honey. I'm not sure where. We can't live here anymore. No job. Once thriving cities and towns became shadows of what they used to be. And when those towns...
Is that really a conversation you have with your kid, though?
Pride.
Make them stress and worry like it's their problem?
Self-worth. But now we're going to turn that around. We're building an economy where no one's going to be left behind. My economic plan is about investing in places, people that have been forgotten. As part of that plan, I talked last night about things we're going to do for families. Just a little more breathing room. Just give them, my dad said, just a little more breathing room. At the end of the month, when everything's paid, you have just a little more breathing room. We're going to lower the cost of everyday products for you all. And we're talking, taking on what we call junk fees. Those hidden surcharges businesses use to make you pay more. We're making airlines show just how the full price of the ticket costs up front, not after the fact, and refund your money if your flight is canceled. We reduce the exorbitant bank overdraft fees, saving an American taxpayer $1 billion a year. Just these fees that were exorbitant for an overdraft.
Saving me $1 billion a year. Thanks, old man Walter.
By 75%. Now they average, if you're late in the payment by a day, it's $30. Guess what? It's going to be $8 now. I heard a commentator on the way flying out here in Air Force One, television was on, talking about little things like junk fees. He says, why isn't Biden talking about important things, important issues? Why the next thing he's going to be talking about taking in your garbage? Well, let me tell you something.
What?
Junk fees may not,
He wasn't watching me.
but they matter to most folks like the home I grew up in. They add hundreds of dollars to afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and think they can get away with it. They play us for suckers, and it makes you angry. At least
Says the guy that's trying to play us for suckers.
it offends me to think about it. So I'm calling on Congress to pass a junk-free prevention act so we can do more than crack down on these junk fees. For too long, workers have been getting stiffed. You know, 30 million workers, the vast majority of them on an hourly wage, had to sign non-compete agreements when they took their job. 30 million. These aren't trade secrets they're hiding. They are hourly wages. That's when a construction worker on a job site can't cross the street and take a job with another outfit to make a couple more bucks. We're banning these agreements for companies that will won't compete, so they pay people the fair share. Why in God's name you tell an hourly worker that they have to sign an agreement that they will not take a similar job anywhere in the area? Look, one of my objectives is to restore the dignity of work, to restore it. You know, we've made a lot of progress over the past 2 years. Many of you have seen...
He's sure worried about making sure everybody's working. but not making sure that everything that costs money is cheaper. Nobody wants to work. Everyone wants money because they have to have money to live. Come on, old man Walter.
When I raised the plans of some of their members and their caucus to cut Social Security, and Marjorie Taylor Greene and others stood up and said, liar, liar.
Hell yeah, she did.
Liar, liar, house on fire, yeah. But guess what? You know, I remind you that Rick Scott from Florida, the guy who ran...
Thanks for highlighting that, old man Walter. We almost forgot.
I got his brochure right here. It has a plan. Here's what he says in his plan. Let me open it up here. Sorry. He says, all federal legislation sunsets every 5 years. If the law is worth keeping, Congress can pass it again. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And by the way...
You should read the law of the land.
Senator named Ron Johnson.
Gave her that Ron Johnson last night.
Ron Johnson on Social Security and Medicare, quote, we should transfer everything, so we have to consider everything every year. Come on, man. And then, come on, man. And then we found there was there's a senator named Mike Lee, who was also yelling, liar, liar, house on fire kind of stuff last night. Well, I didn't even know this, but they played a video showing him. He said, when I said I didn't say the whole part. I said, leading Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare. And so they played last night something I didn't even know existed. A video of him saying, I'm here right now to tell you one thing you probably never heard from a politician. It'll be my objective to phase out Social Security, pull it up by its roots, get rid of it. Then he had, I'm quoting this now, Medicare and Medicaid are the same sort. They need to be pulled up. Sounds pretty clear to me. How about you? But they sure didn't like me calling them on it. Look, a lot of Republicans, their dream is to cut Social Security and Medicare. Well, let me just say this.
That's the dream?
It's a dream, but I'm going to, my veto pen, make it a nightmare.
Ooh, so scary.
But here's actually the good news. There's a lot of good Republicans.
What the
I found it
hell?
interesting. When I called them out on that last night, it sounded like they agreed to take these cuts off the table. Remember I said, no, I'm serious. Remember what I said? I said, so you're not going to cut it, huh? No. I said, okay, we got a deal. Well, I sure hope that's true.
Is that really what happened, though, old man Walter?
When I see it, and their budget's laid down with their cuts they're proposing, but it looks like we negotiated a deal last night on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Are they friend or foe?
Seriously, you see them all standing up saying, we're not going to cut any. Well, that's good. Because, by the way, we got a lot of good bipartisan stuff done in the previous year. Why can't we do it again? Here's the bottom line. All of you have been paying into the system every single paycheck you've had since you started working. These benefits belong to you, the American worker. You earned it. And I will not allow anyone to cut them, not today, not tomorrow, not ever, period. You know, some Republicans in Congress are even threatening to have America default on its debt if I don't agree to the cuts they want. Democrats have never, ever done that, by the way. Now, let's talk about what our national debt is. Everybody thinks it's like what we spend this year versus last. The national debt is the total debt and interest accumulated over 220 years. Hear me? Over 200 years. Every single year that we went and spent more than we took in, it added up. So the federal debt you're hearing about is not the yearly debt. It's 220 or so years of accumulated debt. Democrats, Republicans, everybody. But here's the deal. Our credit has been good. We've never missed a payment as a nation on the debt we have. Why in God's name Would America give up the progress we made for the chaos they're suggesting? This nation has gone through too much. We've come too far to let that happen. I won't, not on my watch. And while there's more work to do, it's clear our plan is working because of the grit and resolve of the American worker.
Because, you know, the thing. You know, the thing?
We're going to keep lowering costs for families. We're going to keep putting shovels in the ground to rebuild our infrastructure, our supply chains, and manufacture more here at home. You know, in the communities across the country that
Stick that hand in your pocket, old man Walter.
we're going to see now,
Doesn't start getting distracted here in a second.
but a sense of
Come on, man. Oh my goodness, they're having a moment over there. Does Wisconsin not get good internet, or what's going on?
come on, man. Sure that what we do is we rebuild these communities.
Somebody's getting some lashings tonight.
That's what I've told all. I've been doing foreign policy for a long time.
Old man Walter's freezing, but the sign language lady isn't.
Know them face to face. I did it for the previous president, my president, Barack Obama, and I'm doing it now. I can say honestly, as I stand here today, I have never, ever been more optimistic about America's future than I am today. We just have to remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. We're the best positioned nation in the world to lead the world in the 21st century. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we work together. And it's my hope we're going to find enough Republicans who want to do that. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Thank you.
It always sounds like the music from Dumbo when he's about to walk off stage. I mean, that's probably just me, but nah, I don't know. Alright, give me a second, hooligans. I gotta see if Hyena Harris is cackling on stage yet or not. She was supposed to hop on stage 15 minutes ago. It's just a moment. Thinking this one is gonna be a good one. Got a new sign language person to be determined. They started about 15 minutes ago, but it is still live, so we're a little late, but that's okay. They can wait for us. Drop some ones and some coffees in the chat if you're ready to go. I'm gonna try and read through really quick. Delay must be like hardcore over on YouTube today. Alright, I'm seeing the ones. Snooks just types out coffee. You hooligans are creative and hilarious every day. Amazing. I appreciate all of you. Side shaved up. Could have guessed that.
My name is Yasmin Korashahi, and I am a Master of City and Regional Planning student here at Georgia Tech. I am so excited to welcome you all to today's special event. Today's conversation will be about a very important issue that affects each and every one of us. Climate change is not just an issue of the environment, but of social and economic justice as well. We need to be working to connect climate scientists and policy experts with elected officials and their communities to solve this crisis, which is why I am pleased to welcome today's moderators, both of whom are leading climate experts here in Georgia. Dr. Isaiah Bolden is an oceanographer and a professor of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences here at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and a preeminent sciences here at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and a preeminent mind in the field of ocean and coral ecology and climate. Please welcome Dr. Bolden to the stage.
What's the name of the sign language person? I'm going with Leon Hansey.
Is a meteorologist, climate expert, professor at the University of Georgia, a member of 3 of the national academies, and at the forefront of life-saving sustainable weather and climate research. Please welcome Dr. Shepard to the stage.
That's Leon Henderson over there.
I'm elated to welcome today's featured speaker to Atlanta and here to Georgia Tech. As a brown girl and daughter of immigrants working in public service, I am thankful to have incredible role models that promote diversity, equity, and justice in all of the work that they do. The Biden-Harris administration is working hard to advance justice through a climate-based agenda. Last year, they championed the single largest investment aimed to improve our infrastructure and boost America's climate resiliency as part of the landmark Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It's so refreshing to have national leadership that prioritizes the climate and has the track record to prove that. And now, my fellow Yellow Jackets, please welcome to the stage Vice President Kamala Harris.
Slithering out from the dark.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
She sounds torn up.
Well, thank you for being here to get things started. And I just want to say how inspired I am to be here. I've been working on climate issues for almost 30 years now. I began my career at NASA as a research scientist and now continue to study it at extreme weather and climate at the University of Georgia. I'm in Georgia Tech territory, but thank you for having me. In recent years, I have focused some of my extreme weather event work on how it affects disproportionately communities of color, the poor, and disadvantaged communities. And this is not just academic. I mean, I grew up in communities just like this. We are at a critical moment in the history where we have an opportunity to chart a new path. Over the past 2 years, with the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the CHIPS and Science Act, there has been significant progress made towards addressing climate change. In this moment, how are you thinking about the progress of the last 2 years and the work ahead?
Thank you. Well, let me first thank both Drs. Shepard and Bolden for your work. And to all of the folks who are here, because the way that I think about this moment is that I do believe it to be a transformational moment. But in order for us to truly achieve that capacity, it's going to require all to be involved, and that's going to be about our scientists, our researchers, our academicians, but it's going to be about our students, it's going to be about our unions, it's going to be about the private sector, it's going to be about our teachers, it's going to be about our youth leaders. It is going to take a whole of community, and I will say on behalf of the administration, a whole of government approach to understanding the excitement that we should all feel about the opportunity of this moment. And then also thinking of it in a way that we understand the intersection between so many movements that have been about a fight for justice and how we should see that intersection then in the context of this moment in the way that we can actually potentially, I do believe, and actually
potentially
close some of the gaps that have long
maybe for certain
around which communities have what resources, around which communities are
the sign language shapeshifter has a racist background
by our failure to act or take seriously issues like clean water as an example. And so I'm very excited about this moment because, as you said, Dr. Shepard, what our administration has been able to do in these last 2 years in very large part because of all the people here who have been demanding it for years, is through the bipartisan infrastructure law, through the Inflation Reduction Act, which, by the way, the Inflation Reduction Act alone was $370 billion to address climate, but we have now looked at the total amount of all that is going to be put in through the Inflation Reduction Act and the Inflation Act. Act, you don't want to hear all these names, right? but we're looking at least $1 trillion to hit the streets
doll hairs
to address some of these issues. And that's very exciting. Around, again, what is a moment where we should think of it as not being about incremental change and slowly moving the needle, but jumping onto a new plateau. And so that's how I think about it. I think about it in the context of establishing a whole new industry, a clean energy economy. And for the students who are here, whether you are studying to be in human resources or to be an engineer or in the School of Communications, what it's going to require of you to jump to this new plateau and have the bright minds who will be thinking then about these traditional occupations and skills through the lens of what we will do that is about sustaining and growing and thriving in a new clean energy economy. So that's the macro way that I'm looking at it. I also look at it through the lens of being the Vice President of the United States, having been, thank you. I have a background of also caring about this, but in the role that I have of having by this point 2 years in, I've met with 100 world leaders, in person or by phone, most in person, kings, chancellors, presidents, and prime ministers, and almost to a one in the conversations that I have with them, I raise this issue. Either because when I am talking with certain world leaders, for example, recently we convened the African Union leaders to talk about the impact of extreme climate on those nations, on those countries, and the impact that is both about energy security and food security. Thinking about it, when I have convened, as I've now done 3 times, the CARICOM countries, the Caribbean countries, where we are looking at the reality, and I have been very, some would say, out there a bit, but that's fine with me, to talk about how, we sneeze and they catch a cold. Because you look at the biggest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions, and they are the most industrial, and in the United States is one of them. And then you look at the Caribbean nations as an example, island nations, which are not the biggest emitters. They are some of the lowest emitters, but are paying the biggest price because of course, they're island nations. And so you're looking at everything from land erosion to what it also means in terms of recognizing that for most of them, the biggest source of their GDP is tourism, and what the extreme climate means in terms of reduction of tourism and a direct impact and hit to their GDP. So these are all of the ways, just to start this conversation, that I think about this moment. But it is a moment of great opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for thanking me. Thank you.
It's amazing. I'm still shocked to be here in your presence, Madam Vice President. So it's extremely.
You weren't expecting the smell? Is that what it is?
The climate crisis so seriously. And though I'm an oceanographer now, I discovered my passions for climate science, justice, and equity from experience.
He almost sounds like Ben Shapiro.
Up there aren't necessarily discussions about climate change from the perspective of sea level rise, but what we do talk about are severe flooding and drought events that are becoming more and more frequent and more intense, regularly displacing people and entire communities who have little voice or socioeconomic means to adapt, much like you said in your most recent answer. I witnessed this in my own community growing up, and the concern that climate-related impacts will continue to compound and continue to disproportionately impact the same communities serve as a great motivator for my chosen career. And I think that it's important for us to understand how our own lived experiences inform this work. So for you, as the first woman and person of color to serve in the role of vice president, the first vice president to attend an HBCU, the first of many things. How have all of those firsts impacted your approach to this work?
And I'm very proud to serve, and I do also recognize the broad shoulders upon which I stand, so I will start with that. You know, I grew up, I was born in Oakland, California. I was raised by a community that was very deeply steeped in civil rights. My parents met when they were active marching and shouting for justice in the civil rights movement. And I have always thought of this issue through the lens of justice, in large part because I was raised to think about fairness and equity. And when I looked at this issue, it was just so very clear, to your point, that that the communities that were disproportionately impacted by, for example, poor air quality, it doesn't take much to realize that some of the poorest air quality zones in our nation are the same places where people of color and low-income communities live. And so it's something that I was raised with. I was raised in the Bay Area in California, so that was, it takes pride in being one of the homes of the movement for environmental justice. You know, I grew up, at least there was this whole campaign about Save the Bay, and it was about water, because also coming from California, the issue of water and water policy was always front and center, because it was about droughts, and now it's about either droughts or flooding. In fact, I love water policy. I confess I am a water policy geek. I think it's so important, right? Like, we could just geek out right here, the three of us, right? But so coming from that background, and then when I was elected DA of San Francisco, I started the first environmental justice unit of any DA's office in the country, because there's a community in San Francisco, Bayview Hunters Point, that at the time, and still I believe, had an annual household income of about $15,000, 15. And it was being treated like a dumping ground by people from outside of the community.
Like her throat.
And I decided to take on the issue in a way that was about saying, look, there's some bad actors in this who are coming into the community and treating, you know, in particular, a community of black families, as though they don't have the same rights that everyone else does to, you know, health and well-being. When I was Attorney General, we took on everything from oil companies to taking on what we need to do around consumer protection on these issues. And then in the Senate, there was that work as well, which was also about paying attention to the diversity of extreme weather issues. Again, coming from California, we're talking about wildfire and drought. And then, of course, in the South and the Eastern Seaboard, we're talking about a combination of floods and hurricanes and all the
words.
And so I grew up with the issue in many ways, but it is, I think, one of the most pressing issues of our time. And again, now with our administration, as you have said, prioritizing what we need to do around solutions, let's just jump in it and jump forward. But
that's what they told her.
It is inclusive in that we are asking the communities that are affected to lead and not telling them what we're going to do for them.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. And one of the things I think you're hearing the vice president say, and it's something I often say, is this is not about polar bears. I like polar bears. They're cute. But this is about kitchen table issues that affect lives in Oakland, California, and Canton, Georgia, and Nashville, Tennessee. I want to talk about the historic investments the administration has made. There are a lot of components, but one of my favorite personally, and I have to sneak this in being a University of Georgia professor, is the engineering with nature and nature-based solutions component.
Yes.
We're doing quite a bit of that at UGA with the Army Corps of Engineers because we know, as you noted, atmospheric rivers in California, hurricanes, so forth, disrupting our coastal communities and our communities.
Everybody in the chat, amazing.
With all this federal investment, what is one of the parts that you are most excited about?
Well, there are a lot, and I really would love for you to talk a little bit more about your work, Dr. Shepard, because I think it is something that is very exciting, and it seems to be remote and very high level, which of course it is in terms of the level of knowledge that one must have to do what you do, but it's also very accessible in terms of lived experiences. But one of the things that excites me most, I'm very, again, excited about water policy. And so by that I mean, you know, the importance of all of us understanding that I believe that access to clean water should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
Go to Flint and have that speech.
And that's everything from getting rid of lead in pipes, which is a big area of focus for our administration, which I've been among the leaders on, which is to get rid, our goal with the infrastructure money is to get rid of all lead pipes and service lines within the next.
Thank you so much, Kathika, for continuing the membership program over on Twitch for 12 months. You're officially a hooligan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
And it impacts their health, it impacts their ability to learn. I mean, again, this is what I mean about the intersection, right? Because it's an environmental issue, but it is also an educational justice issue and an equity issue around education. Right? So
it's Morse code for she needs help.
For that reason. But one of the other areas where I'm very particularly interested and excited about is electric vehicles, and in particular, electric school buses. So, electric school buses. 25 million children a day during the week go to school on the school bus. Who of us went to school on the school bus? Right. Okay, so I think my numbers are right, but
Yep, tell us about the dangerous bus fumes and why it's hurt all of us for 100 years and all that.
Picking up our children that the school bus driver is driving. So we're talking about workplace safety, where the teacher and the teacher's aide and all of the people who are involved in the education system are standing there when that school bus is idling to help the kids get on, help the kids get off. Over 90% are diesel fueled, and they're inhaling all that. So again, the piece that is about the public health piece, the piece that is about what that means in terms of asthma rates and what children miss in terms of school because they have an asthma attack.
The school buses was the ground zero for asthma. I had no idea.
We're building them right here in the United States.
What about the stovetops? You want to go back to the stovetop thing? No.
Here in the United States and have the potential to be a worldwide leader. And why should that be exciting? Because that's about jobs. That's about good paying jobs, because the jobs to build those buses require folks to be in union apprenticeships where they will be getting an incredible education to do the work that is about engineering, about being an electrician, to build those buses to fuel not only through electricity, these buses getting these kids to school.
I think it's interesting that they never bring up union dues.
It's about growing jobs. It's about U.S.-based manufacturing. So
paying those union fees a lot of times knocks you down to the same pay rate that you'd be making at McDonald's.
Thank you very much for that answer. And I drove here in an electric car.
At least that's how it is here in West Michigan.
Don't believe the hype and some of the critics out there. Do your research, because it really is our future.
Well, we also have rebates in the work that we've been doing, and not only rebates to purchase an electric vehicle, but the first time where we now have thousands of dollars of rebates to buy a used electric vehicle, passenger vehicle. So that's very important to know as well, because again, when we talk about equity, it should not be that only the people who have, wealth can have access to electric vehicles. What is that, right? If we agree that it's about public health for everybody, and if it's about emissions that affect everybody, everyone should be able to partake in moving into this new green energy and clean energy economy.
Amazing, thank you. As a self-proclaimed automotive enthusiast,
so amazing.
I share that passion for electric vehicles. And
words from a hooker.
I'm with you. I'm going to Minnesota tomorrow, actually.
Oh, very cool.
And there's an electric transit.
Why are they protesting there?
Work that's happening there. And again, transit bus, right? So public transportation.
Right. Exactly.
Who's taking public transportation? Right? Who's sitting at the bus stop waiting for that bus? And who's driving the...
You tell us, corner dweller.
So just thinking about, again, the whole ecosystem around this.
Absolutely. The future of public transit, particularly electrified public transit. It's amazing. It's kind of really a good example of how climate policy impacts so many of our daily life activities, even from the individual to community levels, right? Something that I have found incredibly enlightening and rewarding, even in my short career so far as an academic, are efforts aimed at community resilience policy because of its potential to explicitly and increase equitable and inclusive incorporation. Focusing on climate policies that are grassroots and incorporate science, community perspectives, and day-to-day real-world interactions with climate variability and its multifaceted impacts. I've heard that you also love to dig in on policy issues in this kind of really nitty-gritty, multifaceted way. So what is one example of a climate policy issue that you are most passionate about?
Water policy would be probably the
I
surprise. Okay, so water policy. So again, we agree that it should, access to clean water should be a right. We agree that it is an essential component to life. And we also agree it is precious. And when we look at extreme climate, we see that we are experiencing drought around the world. By the way, when you think about the scarcity of water, also understand it's a national security issue.
By the way.
Understand, it doesn't take much to just think about and reflect on the fact that if people don't have water where they live, they will leave where they live. If they cannot grow food where they live, they will leave where they live, and they will go to other places.
If birds flap their wings, then they will fly. What are you saying?
Invariably go to places that speak a different language and pray to a different God. And what do you think might happen then? You are probably looking at the beginning of conflict.
What?
We are seeing changing patterns around the world based on the scarcity of natural and essential resources.
You have a problem with
So
the
again,
gods
when I
that
think
people
about
pray
water
to?
policy, I
That's
put it
a
in a
little
context
weird
that's
and
both
against the
local
Constitution.
in terms of Flint or in terms of Mississippi, and I think about it in a global perspective. So water policy, let's
I don't think you think at all, Hyena Harris.
with an equal
Out here saying, the sun is hot, the snow is cold.
recycling.
And then cackle really loud for us.
Rainwater, you know, in places that are on the coast, be it the Gulf, be it the Pacific Ocean, we tend with floods and with excessive rainwater to want to get rid of it, right? Because it's dangerous, it becomes disaster proportions. And then we end up flushing it into the ocean. Whereas if we were thinking in a smarter, more long-term way about the precious nature of this, we would invest equally, again, conservation, recycling, but also water capture, storage. And then thinking about storage, it's smarter instead of having it above ground where it can evaporate underground. Again, that's all about jobs. We need engineers, we need architects, we need the bricklayers and the pipe fitters and the electricians to do this work. And then we're talking also about desalination, which presents interesting issues in terms of the electricity that generates, and so we have to think about that solar and wind turbine, and again, another ecosystem that we need to think through. But water policy it really does excite me, and there's a lot of good work to be done there.
Thank you so much, and it really brings to bear something that you said when you talk about resources and sustainability and resilience. I mean, I'm thinking about a project that both Isaiah and I are involved in right now here between Georgia and Georgia Tech called Upcycle. It's not dealing with water policy, but we're thinking about negative emission technologies and changing the climate or modifying aspects of how we work in our technological society because we know the downstream implications.
Right.
I want to talk about one of those downstream implications right now. One of the most immediate impacts of the climate crisis is on public health and the inequities it exacerbates. I've done work in this area with something I call the extreme weather climate gap, which gets at exactly what you're talking about, this idea that certain communities are disproportionately impacted, not just from sort of the direct impacts from these extreme weather climate events, from the follow-on sort of diseases associated with floodwaters and extreme heat sustained over time. Just down the street, we've identified communities here in Atlanta that are disproportionately exposed to flooding and heat, for example, in some of our work. So how have you seen the impacts of the climate crisis on public health?
They're extreme, and I think I'd love that we could each share, because I think it'd be helpful also for especially the students who are here to hear your path, Dr. Shepard and Dr. Bolden.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I would love to. Why don't...
She's out of things to say, so she needs them to start talking as a filler.
What that means, what we look at in terms of the extreme climate and how that could affect an issue that I've long worked on, like maternal mortality. There are a lot of things there, but can we talk a little bit first about the two of you and your path to being where you are now? Because
Sure.
we need more of you.
We do. We certainly do. I'll start. And again, we're in awe of your presence, so thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, Phi Ski, I'm going to slip that in because I'm an alpha. And but one of the things I would say is that as the former president of the American...
What was that howling?
2% or less of our represent the kind of communities that are most affected by these things. So a bee sting set me off on a path to weather and climate because I found out I was...
You said a bee sting?
A bee sting. I really was. I found out I was deathly allergic to bees.
They're like saying some other stuff.
And so I was not interested in forecasting. So talk about a plan B. But I knew that I...
Are you hearing this? Are you hearing this? This underlying message being sent here? Are they going to run a train on it right here?
Worked at NASA for many years.
I can't show that on YouTube.
Satellite missions that I know are so much a part of the portfolio that the administration uses. And so I've done quite a bit of work in extreme weather and climate, been on the various National Academy panels and so forth. But in recent years, for the reasons that you articulated, it's important to translate this sort of theoretical science into policy. We just submitted a proposal to NASA looking at how extreme rainfall and soil moisture exacerbates septic system failures in the Black South and the Deep South.
Right.
Those are kitchen table, how do they affect me issues? And so that's really been part of my path. I'll share it, pass it off to Isaiah.
Yeah, my path, it's pretty recent memory. But as I mentioned, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. I was always a big science nerd. But I also noticed, right around my junior year of high school, we had like a massive 500+ year flooding event that rolled through the city and basically decimated populations all along the floodplain, basically along the Cumberland River. And here we are more than a decade later.
Cat's sitting here throwing up. My only conclusion, it's got to be Hyena Harris.
Was that sometimes like the city officials or like gentrification basically started moving in and taking advantage of the fact that people couldn't go back and live in those places. And so I kind of had this passion burgeoning.
Thank you so much, Fabra J, for continuing the membership program for 1 month. I appreciate you. Thank you. You're officially a hooligan.
Someone who's like got this aptitude for science, aptitude for math, but then seeing that the science is not reaching the public in the way that it should. What can I then do with my career as an environmental scientist to generate data and get that data into the hands of people who could do something with it and better adapt? And so with that in mind, I left Tennessee and I went to Bowdoin College, small liberal arts college in Maine. And I majored in earth and oceanographic science, minored in chemistry, still persisted to be a big nerd. And I basically discovered that if I really want to understand the variability of climate on timescales that humans care about, that I could do something about, then I probably should understand the ocean. Oops, excuse me. I probably should understand how the ocean interacts with climate. And that set me off on a wild path that led to coral reefs and ocean acidification issues and working with NOAA as a Hollings scholar and to my position here at Georgia Tech as an assistant professor in Earth and Atmospheric Science. So, but again, this whole thing is motivated by this idea that my career goals are to do awesome science, but then also get that science into the hands of people so that we can actually make progress and show that science and society is a link that we need to pursue, basically.
Yeah, clap the mic.
As you both were talking, it's reminding me, the connections, right? So going back to the issue of lead pipes, the mothers and the fathers and the grandmothers and the grandfathers in the communities that have been suffering from these have been fighting for years and years and years. It didn't take a science degree for them to know what was happening to their children and what was happening in their community. And when I think about your journey in life and your calling, both of you. Part of it is having people who are in these positions who understand that and understand the brilliance and the level of knowledge that communities have.
She's totally out of things to say.
To them. There is that piece of it. But there's another piece, Dr. Bolden, that you were talking about that also has to be understood, like again on the issue of lead pipes. So lead pipes weren't only laid in low-income communities. They were, this was a thing at a time, right? The difference is this. If you are in a community where you have high rates of home ownership and everybody's got a good paying job, and you know you've got lead pipes, you just pay to remove them. But if you're living in a rental unit or in public housing or in a place where you're barely making the mortgage every month, much less being able to re-pipe your whole home, including the service lines, then you know what that means. And so the policy, part of the importance of how the policy and how our approach has changed that is to say, no, the federal government should be paying to remove these lead pipes. We should not just put it on the residents and the homeowners in those communities for a number of reasons that, yes, is about having a goal of equitable outcomes, but also understanding that collectively we pay a price in terms of, again, the educational impact, the public health impact of those kinds of things. But having brilliant people in the positions that you're in to be able to see the connections is so incredibly important. And for all the students who are here and thinking about your work, and I know we have students from many of the universities and colleges in the area, really do see this as an area that is so vast in terms of the skills that will be required. And we need you. We really need you, because this is the thing, back to the first point about what's exciting about this moment. There are going to be a lot of new jobs. There's going to be a lot of new work. We're talking about a new approach.
She needs to wrap this up and walk her gaping hole off the stage. We got other stuff to cover.
That is necessary for people to be clear on the concept. Yeah. But thank you both for for what you do. Thank you.
Because you don't even know what it is. Because you don't know anything.
Yeah, thank you for that very enlightening message to the next generation. And kind of spawning off of that, as somebody who is just
so enlightening.
I know that the climate crisis is going to be a dominant portion of my entire life. It's going to be a dominant presence in my entire life. It already has been. And dealing with such a heavy and often wicked problem can feel pretty daunting at times. And so I try to make a conscious effort, both in the classroom as a professor and in my research, to highlight the creative, critical thinking skills and problem-solving skills that are necessary.
I feel like this guy is kind of trolling her.
Inherently interdisciplinary.
Like, they are having a conversation,
exploration,
but she's having a word salad, and he's trying to be more direct and specific. And I feel like he's just showing her up. That's what he's doing. It's like a backhanded compliment situation.
To do my part to change what it truly means to be a geoscientist, we need to get more comfortable wearing many hats, from the academic to the social.
Right.
So in your role as vice president,
yes,
you have to deal with all kinds of issues, not just climate-related ones. So when it comes to tackling the climate crisis, what keeps you going, and how do you maintain perspective?
Well, moments like this. I mean, look at this incredible room and group of leaders who have convened from every and all walks of life and work to come together under one roof to understand the collective dedication that we need to have to an issue like that. This gives me a lot of motivation to keep doing the work. The motivation is also, like, I have in fact, all of my offices, I have brilliant teams that I work with, and I will always challenge my team, and I'll say, okay, on any subject that we're talking about, I would like you to sit back and tell me, so I can understand the relevance of what we're talking about, how will this impact a child? It's an interesting question to always ask of yourself when somebody is debating public policy or some opinion about what's supposed to be, to ask, how will that impact a child? And when you do, it will really require you to challenge a lot of your assumptions.
What a dumpster fire this is.
Okay, is there somewhere here that how is a child impacted, right? And so we have been talking extensively about that, and that's part of how I think about it, and to the extent that I believe that we're moving the ball forward, the satisfaction I get is knowing that the children will benefit. And that gives me a great deal of satisfaction to think that that is what we can do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, wow, time really flies. Madam Vice President, thank you for bringing us together for this conversation, and thank you for Georgia Tech for hosting us. This convening was so important to me, and they asked me to put my perspective here before I give you a chance for final words. And for me, it's simple. I mean, there's no plan B planet. This is our only planet. And so
that's right.
We need to take care of it.
I like that they put plants on the stage just to make it more homely looking.
Before we close, I
ridiculous.
want to make sure that you have
Totally ridiculous. Like it's a living room.
Well, let's just, again, let's all stay active in this and understand, to your point, this is the planet we've got. It is a precious place. It is a place that we have a responsibility for taking care of. And that there is a whole lot of work that can be done, but the clock is not just ticking, it's like banging. It is requiring us to move quickly, but there is so much to be excited about in terms of what we can do. And again, I will say to the students who are here and those who are thinking about their role in this, you're gonna come out and just leapfrog over all of us. Because, you know, especially for our younger leaders, the benefit that you have is you're not burdened by any question about, is this real? That was great, because we've been having to deal with some folks who just literally.
What the hell?
We're kind of like, have you looked out the window? You know?
Are they friend or
but
foe?
You guys are coming out, and it's just, and now we're talking
Gross.
all kinds of creative, very exciting ways to do this that is going to be about public health, public education, about strengthening our economy, about investing in jobs, about respecting the dignity of work, about being
She has a hard time gripping that microphone without sticking it down her throat. That's why she keeps dropping it, because she has to remember and remind herself not to just stuff it in there.
Americans and that America has to its neighbors. So it's a very exciting time, and I'm just very thankful to everyone here for taking your time.
She sounds like she's having a stroke.
And to Dr. Shepard, Dr. Bolden, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and that concludes our program today. Thank you.
Our bourbon for the day. I like how he just wipes his hand off. He's like, don't touch me. You're disgusting. You smell like bad tuna. Well, that was, that was something. So we're going to move forward here to a very short video, but really good stuff. It's titled Bizarre. Jill Biden and Camilla's husband kiss at the State of the Union. I mean, we'll just keep the Hyena Harris thing going. All right, give me a second here. I gotta get her voice out of my head. Gotta give her the screaming goat. She's the throw goat of the year. Well, I did not catch this last night while we were covering the State of the Union address, and it just could have been that the White House feed didn't show it. Possibilities are endless, but this is quite something. I mentioned the other day that she's a groupie. That's why she was at the Grammys. And then I said it again last night, but I had no idea that this took place when I mentioned her being a groupie, and this really just it certifies it, in my opinion. So go ahead and get this started. Like I said, it's a very short clip. It's like 20-something seconds. So that was not intentional, right? So after the live, after we covered that, I seen those images, just still images all over Twitter. And I was thinking maybe, maybe accidents happen, people try to be all extra and kiss each other on the cheek like we're in Europe or something. And things happen. Maybe there was some miscommunication. Accidents happen in these kind of weird situations because that's not common here in America, at least not that I've seen. And so I thought, maybe it was just a rough still image. But then I seen the video. It looked pretty intentional to me. I mean, they both leaned into it. We're not going to go into the science of who should lean in for kisses and stuff like that, but it seemed pretty intentional on both parties. And then I also see the video of Hyena Harris in the background with her arms folded, standing next to McCarthy. His old man Walter staggers around the room, and people were saying, why does Hyena Harris look like that? Well, maybe because she just watched her husband kiss old man Walter's wife. Pretty direct. It didn't look accidental to me, and I don't know. I just thought we would take a gander at that. Maybe it's contributing to why Hyena Harris was just so inebriated on stage there. But we're gonna keep it going. We have another one. So this next one is titled "Camilla is a Dreadful Candidate" by Karl Rove. Alright, before we get this started, I'm going to read through the chat really quick. Snooks. It was full lip on. It was. I thought maybe they were doing some funny stuff with those still images. Once I seen that video, I was like, oh no. And then, the really hard thing to digest is don't think about what else they do when we're not watching. Because if you watch the people in the background during that short clip, nobody looked surprised. Nobody was like, what are you doing? Nobody felt that way. It was just like, oh yeah, they do that all the time. Da 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 da. But normally there's an assault hammer present. I don't know. It's not good. It's not good. Anyways, let's get this started.
Karl Rove is the former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, and he joins me now. This is pretty well done so far. How does this go from here, Mr. Rove?
Well, first of all, she brought it on herself. She was a dreadful candidate. She was a dreadful pick as a vice president, and the American people see it. Think about this. This is in the Real Clear Politics average. Biden's approval is 44. His vice presidential running mate, 37. And it ain't going to get better for her. She is a terrible candidate. She's a terrible office holder. We've got that, whenever she gets into difficulty, she lets out with that weird laugh, that cackle. And what has she done? This is the woman who is in charge of the border, and it's an utter unmitigated disaster.
What an unflattering picture.
Problem with the border that she's working on, not the problem at the border, but something
that's going to be in my nightmares tonight.
Responsible for anything on the border. That's not what the American people are.
Why do they keep zooming in on it? It's terrible.
She's a woman. She's a woman of color. She's on the ticket. They're going to rip this woman out of the ticket in front of the world to see.
Well, it is going to be hard.
It's just getting worse and worse.
Let's say Biden is not renominated. He's 82.
We all float down here.
Particularly if he faces a younger, the 44-year-old Ron DeSantis or the 51-year-old Nikki Haley or the 50-some-odd-year-old Mike Pompeo or Glenn Youngkin or, a number of others, all of them in their 40s, 50s, and maybe late 50s at most. And suddenly people are looking at, God, the guy is 82. He expects to be in this job until he's 86, closer to 90 than 80. And if something bad happens to him, it's her. And for once, the vice president will become a very significant consideration in the minds of the American people. Look, Biden's in terrible shape. Think about this. 37% of Democrats want him to run again. It was 52% in October. The Washington Post ABC poll, 37% approval on the economy. CBS, 61% of the American...
The dry erase board is not convincing.
And 37% in the Fox poll say they approve of the president on the economy. Is anybody going to look at Kamala Harris and say, wait a minute, I don't care what's happening with Biden. We got her.
So
no, they're not. They're going to look at that and say another reason to vote against him.
Did you bring 2 boards or did you write on the back of that one?
I got 3, baby.
You got 3 boards.
Three,
okay,
right.
you know what?
Got 3 boards.
We've seen enough boards, just like we've seen enough balloons. Karl Rove, the architect, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Hey, Sean.
I don't know about the whole whiteboard situation. Not sure. Alright, so we got 2 more videos to watch. This next one is titled, Was This a Big PSYOP? Matt Gaetz scrutinizes purpose of Chinese balloon. This video is just over 5 minutes. Alright, I'm going to read through the chat really quick, drop some ones and some coffees in the chat if you are ready to go. Eric, shining face. I've seen a couple of you. Yeah, the shining, I don't know, nightmare. I'm trying to think. I can't remember if I retweeted it or if I posted it in Gilded, but people were taking pictures of Hyena Harris at the event yesterday, and she's got like bones sticking out of her neck and some weird stuff. I think little critters live in there. I don't know. It's not good. It's not good. All right, I'm seeing the ones in the chat. Let's get her started. Real Assistant, the chicken bacon. Those chicken bacon shirts are gonna come out pretty soon, and I'm gonna buy a hoodie. People are gonna be like, "What is that?" It's the good stuff.
Admiral Harris, it's great to have you back before the committee. Few people know China's capabilities like you do. When you saw this balloon traversing the continent of North America, what concerned you most?
Yeah, thanks, Congressman. Good to see you again. Well, I mean, the most concern was what was it doing and what information is it getting, and is it itself dangerous? I mean, we don't know. I mean, General Van Herk talked about the possibility that there were explosives on the balloon and all of that. General Hertling talked about whether the balloon was sent up as a ploy to see what we would do. And I think that your comments about it in the media, at least, were some of the best that I read. And that is, would shooting it down give China a sort of pretext for them to do the same thing? We just don't know at the time that it happened. Fortunately, we had time because, I mean, let's face it, it's a balloon. So we had time to think about it, to consider it, to weigh it, and I think most importantly, perhaps not most importantly, but certainly importantly, it gave China a chance to address the issue diplomatically, which they failed to do, to no surprise. So ultimately, the decision was made to shoot it down, and did so in a way that was safe for people and property, and in a way that we could collect the information. It's only in 47 feet of water.
In our limited time, let's bifurcate that, the danger and then the transmission of information. We have the capability to block the transmission of information from the balloon back to China, don't we?
We do.
And in this type of an environment, do you think it's probably likely that we did that?
I would only guess, but I think General Van Herk said that...
well, you can't see any reason why we wouldn't do that.
Right.
And when it comes to the danger that the balloon poses, are you aware of capability with this type of a balloon system to birth sensors or drones or other hardware or assets?
I'm not, but that's why it's so important to try to collect up all the pieces of this thing to understand. I mean, this thing is huge, right? I mean, the balloon itself is bigger than this room. It's 3,000 or 4,000 pounds of equipment. A couple of buses, I think, is what has been said. So.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, why would the Chinese use this balloon rather than a satellite system for surveillance? And one thing that presumably a satellite could not do would be birth other sensors or drones. And so just so that it gives Americans...
I don't like that tie with that outfit. I don't know who told him to wear that.
In command, you never were aware of or briefed on a capability that the Chinese had to use a balloon system like that for that type of a proliferation of other hardware or assets.
That's correct. And again, that's why it's so important to collect as much of the balloon pieces that we can to understand exactly what we're dealing with here.
And while
it could very well be also that maybe, I mean, it's just me speculating here because I'm under pressure and I'm liable to blurt out the truth. It could very well be that maybe we've overestimated the capability of Chinese satellites in low Earth orbit.
Well, and you've shared with me that we have the capability to block any transmission of information from the balloon. And while you weren't in the Situation Room while this decision was being made, as you join us today, you can't assess a circumstance in which we would have ever allowed information to be transmitted.
I would think.
It sort of begs the question, was this a big psyop?
Yeah.
Was this an effort by China to see how we would react to something like this that might not have had, the danger that we spoke of because you were not aware of that capability, and then also didn't have an intelligence collection function, and so to others it may have been an effort to try to see how we would react, how we wouldn't react, and then to try to use that to inform their decision making. In my limited time I have left with the Admiral, in the broadest sense, if we had $100 billion to dedicate to the China scenario, in which domain would that be the smartest investment?
It would not be in counter balloon warfare.
I would agree. Would it be space? Would it be cyber, electronic warfare?
I think it would be cyber and space.
And what dividends, if we made a $100 billion investment in cyber, what could the American people expect regarding the enhancement to their safety?
I think we could be assured then that we wouldn't have intrusions, intentional or otherwise, from any number of actors, including Chinese.
Well, assured of no intrusions from the Chinese sounds to me like a lot better than sending $100 billion to Ukraine, but that'll be something we'll assess as a team.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Yield back.
Chair. For 5 minutes.
They sure don't want to give us any information about the Chinese spy balloon. They don't want us to know. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, especially after Alex Jones had made the statement that it wouldn't take very many of those to really put us in a bad spot if they were doing some EMP kind of stuff. People should go get those special bags that I got the other day sent to me, because you could use them specifically for those situations. I don't know. We won't know till it happens. Moving on to our final video here. It's titled Lauren Boebert responds to AOC's amendment rips weather extremists. So this video is just under 5 minutes, and this will be wrapping up today's Coffee with Hooligans.
Gentleman yields back. Does anyone else wish to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman.
Gentlewoman from Colorado, Ms. Boebert, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with this amendment, I don't think any of us are opposed to actually having oversight to understand the health and safety with our fossil fuel productions. We want you to know the truth. We want you to see these reports. But as the gentleman from Wisconsin stated, there was a but in that. Not at this time. At this time, we aren't going to use that to go against fossil fuels, but we will use it later. We have been studying the science of fossil fuels. I worked in the oil and gas industry myself, and I know that no one produces energy better than we do, cleaner than we do. And instead, we have an administration right now that's begging Iran, begging Venezuela, begging Saudi Arabia, emptying our strategic petroleum reserves in the name of a midterm election. This is not in the name of public health and safety. This was in the name of an election to get fuel prices down $1 or $2 so they wouldn't have a complete decimation of their party and they would still hold on to their levers of power. And thankfully, the American people saw through some of that. But I mean, just going through this, fossil fuel extraction is a significant driver of carbon pollution. If carbon pollution is your main aim, then let's talk about managing our forests. Because one catastrophic wildfire emits more carbon emissions in a few short days than every vehicle in my state of Colorado running 24/7 for an entire year. So if carbon pollution is what you're after here, then let's get together and manage our forests. We have 6 billion standing dead trees in the western United States, all creating a massive tinderbox waiting to ignite. If you want to talk about water quality, then again, let's talk about managing our forests, because healthy forests have healthy watersheds. We can have water resiliency discussions and water storage discussions where we're seeing policies in states like California where they're dumping hundreds of billions of gallons of water into the ocean where they otherwise could have stored it. If you're talking about low-income communities being impacted, well, let's talk about inflation. Let's talk about how our energy independence lowers inflation. And that's something that this administration surrendered on day one. This is something that they attacked immediately. We should be energy dominant right now. Our natural gas is 42% cleaner than Russia's. So why are you supporting Russia and their energy production and not America? Why are you pro-Putin when it comes to natural gas? Let's export liberty, export freedom around the globe and send our clean LNG to these countries who are currently relying on dictators. And when you're talking about the indigenous communities, well, I invite you all to come to my district where one of our tribes has the first ever zero emissions net power natural gas fired plant. This is innovative. And this is what we should be doing with our other plants, our coal-fired energy plant in Craig, Colorado. I would love to see that transition into what our
Make sure you guys rack those likes up. I think somebody just tried to take us down. The whole chat just froze for a minute there. It seems like it's rolling now. If you hit that like button, it can pull us out of this nonsense.
Is arguably the cleanest coal in the world. And climate extremists are sacrificing that at the altar of climate change. And look, I'm not here to deny climate change. I don't think anyone here is. It happens 4 times every year. We're very, very much aware of that. And what we can do to lessen pollutants, we're here for it. That's why we are pro natural gas. That's why we want to lower folks' energy bills. Have you seen the price of energy bills lately? That's because we're banning gas electronics, appliances. That's because we're pushing all of this green energy that's not efficient, it's not reliable, it's not renewable. And I would love to see an actual study on our fossil fuel production, but not in this manner, because there are hidden elements in it. And for that reason, I will be opposing this amendment. And I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman yields back.
All right, hooligans. I think we got some people crying, trying to tag my video. I think that's why it's freezing up. We're probably under human observation right now to make sure we're not hurting their little feelings or community guidelines. Da-da-da. Can't do anything. This is why we can't have nothing nice. People crying. All right. Well, hooligans, that is that. That's all I have for today. There's nothing else on the White House schedule. There's nothing else on my schedule. Of course, if really crazy stuff happens, we will go live. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode of Coffee with Hooligans. I'm going to give you guys the spiel. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to wrap this up. But first, thank you so much, Bone Daddy, for that $5 donation. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to pull up the website so you guys can take a gander. Kept pulling up the wrong website. I got 2 websites for the people that don't realize. I see a lot of hooligans going to the JeffMacmusic website, which is fine if you guys make music and you would like to work with me on music. But it makes me feel like people are trying to find this website. So here's my spiel. When you guys got a second, please go to jeffmaclive.com. You can also find the link in the description on any of the live platforms that you are watching right now. The home page has all of my links listed. You can find the link to join Gilded for free. Gilded is currently the best way to receive notifications for when and where we go live, every time we go live. You'll also receive notifications for important updates and things I feel you should be aware of. On Gilded, you can find the news board to keep you up to date with everything going on. There's a ton of hooligans in there to hang out with every day, all day, to chat it up about pretty much whatever you like. So definitely join Gilded. Also on jeffmaclive.com on the home page, you can find links to the merch store if you would like to grab some merch. We have shirts, hoodies, and stickers, and coffee mugs, and all kinds of stuff, so go check it out. Everything is displayed in black and white or white and black, but if you find something you like, click on that item to see all of the colors that that item comes in. Also on the home page, you can find links to PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Stripe, Zelle, or Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to support what I do. There's also a link to the Amazon wish list if you would like to send me stuff. It's really simple to use. Anything you purchase directly from the Amazon wish list will be sent to me directly. You don't have to come find information or send emails or anything like that. It's really simple. And then finally, on the home page, you can find links to the membership programs. We have memberships for YouTube, Gilded, Discord, Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitch. So that's my spiel. Prepare yourself for the Pledge of Allegiance. Looks like the chat is still stuck. Oh well, whatever's whatever. Alright, hooligans, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, hooligans. Well, that's that. That's all I got for now. Yeah. So, I will see you guys tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'll probably be a little late because I'm a hooligan and that's what I do. It's not intentional, but it is what it is. But I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Coffee with Hooligans. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you guys so much for all your support, and I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap. Ew, Klaus Daniels threw up everywhere.